My boyfriend wanted to take me and his two best pals on a trip to his mother's friend's property in Hawaii this summer. We'd been preparing for this vacation since the spring, and one of his male buddies eventually dropped out, leaving just the three of us. My partner and I have been dating since November, and our relationship is serious. We had, and still have, discussed moving in together, and he has stated, and I agree, that this is a long-term relationship in which we intended to stay. When his male buddy backed out of the trip abruptly in early June, his female friend phoned my boyfriend and informed him that now that it was just the three of us, she didn't feel comfortable with me attending because she didn't know me well and didn't want to be a third wheel. She stated that if I went, she would not accompany me on the vacation. They adjusted the plans and made it a trip for just the two of them, and they moved the destination to a beach in Costa Rica without notifying me. I was trying to figure out when to ask for time off this summer and hadn't heard anything about the Hawaii trip yet, so I asked my partner which week in August I should reserve for the vacation. He informed me that he had spoken with his friend and that she did not want to travel if I went, so he was going to accompany her to Costa Rica. He suggested we go back a week later, perhaps to Mexico City or somewhere else. I was upset, and I attempted to explain how I felt to him, especially because this wasn't a case of being invited and then uninvited from a week-long tropical vacation with a girlfriend of his whom I'd never met before. As a form of reparation, we eventually decided to take a trip to Copenhagen, which we both wanted to see. I also requested to meet her so that I could feel more at ease on the journey. We spent the 4th of July in the city where she and her partner reside, and while it was lovely to put a person to a name, it turned out to be a very cold trip, and she was not at all welcoming to me. My partner commented on how unpleasant she was to both of us and expressed astonishment that she didn't act cordially towards me. I went out of my way to get to know her and her boyfriend. I'm quite outgoing and pleasant, so this should be easy. But even after several days, nothing clicked. They were also cool to each other. They squabbled a little about their future plans and his own 3-week trip without her, which was scheduled at the same time as theirs. This had been scheduled before ours had. This had been my attempt to make myself feel better about the trip, so I informed my partner that I still didn't feel at ease and that I was offended by the way it had been handled. I had attempted to smooth things over amongst us all, and I had requested that he come up with something that would make me feel better about the trip. When his family inquired about the trip, they were all surprised that he had planned it this way, and they told me that they would have been furious if they had been in my shoes, which sparked a fight in which I asked him to help me devise a strategy to make me feel better and more secure about them going together without me. He said he would never do something like this again, which doesn't seem like much of an offer given that this is a once-in-a-lifetime vacation to begin with. He offered to not go on the trip, but he had already paid for the tickets and made plans, and I didn't want to upset him and his closest buddy by interrupting their trip. He asked me for suggestions on how to make me feel better rather than just telling him what to do, and we stalled and stalled until the day of the trip arrived. I took the two of them to the airport after he bought me a bag of peanut butter cups. In this position, I feel completely ignored and insulted. I want to end our relationship, but I don't want to ruin something that has otherwise been wonderful. So, what should I do now?
Am I the asshole for kicking my sister out of my house after she laughed at my husband for having breast cancer? My husband John, 41, was diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer August of this year. It had been hard for us, and John had difficulty accepting the diagnosis as he can't believe a man can have this type of cancer. He felt both embarrassed and isolated. It took a toll on my mental health, and I was diagnosed with depression. Last Saturday, we invited our family to share the unfortunate news. We agreed that telling them our circumstances can only help us accept our situation. After dinner, when John told everyone his diagnosis, both our parents empathized and offered their support. My sister said maybe the cancer cells got confused because you have huge man boobs. Dad called her out and I took her to the kitchen. I told her she was being insensitive and cruel to make a joke about my husband. She said I'm blowing it out of proportion as she was just trying to lighten the mood. I got angry with her because instead of apologizing, she made excuses and called me too sensitive. I told her to get out of my house and I won't be talking to her anymore unless she apologizes to me and especially to John. She had to leave at 10 p.m. and she called an Uber. When my mom found out, she got upset and said that I overreacted.
My husband has been pooping in the bathtub.
Intentionally?
Like waffle stomping it?
Yeah, I can't believe I'm writing this. For a while, there's been a faint smell of poop when I go to the shower, yet no poop in the toilet. I always figured it must just be someone pooped earlier that day. It is us and 2 kids in this house, so... Well, yesterday, rushing to get ready for work, I opened the bathroom to see an actual turd sitting there on the edge of the tub. And him with his phone, taking pictures.
Caught brown-handed.
Ew, I don't like that.
So how else did he get it out of the toilet?
He exploded at me to get the fuck out. When we finally had a talk where he explained he just likes to look at them. And will poop sometimes outside the toilet to see them better. He also posted the picture he took here on Reddit for people to rate. I looked at his account and was horrified. Not only does he do this here, he's done it at his sister's house, at work, and in public bathrooms. He will post these locations like he is proud of it.
Like geotag?
Yeah.
Like at McDonald's, at Susie's place.
Bro, I'm upset.
He's apparently been doing this for over a year, probably longer. We have 2 kids. How can he knowingly take a shit on a place that they touch? He kept saying he's always cleaned it up, but obviously not enough if I was smelling it the whole time.
Correct.
Does he just not care? He cares a lot about his shit. That's the whole thing.
That's the thing, is he cares too much about it.
He told me he will do whatever the fuck he wants with his body and his private time, which I cannot accept.
You cannot my body, my choice shitting on a bathtub.
If he was the only one doing this in the toilet, weird, but whatever. The tub, public bathrooms, absolutely fucking not.
Mm-mm.
Now I am being accused of being controlling and a bitch. He is still giving me the silent treatment, except to criticize me. He left to sleep at a motel last night, checked his account with a bad feeling. Guess what? This very morning he was posting from the motel. He says this is completely normal. That's just a guy thing, and lots of guys have a dumb appreciation for their poops.
I mean, clearly, because there's a subreddit for it. But also, like, this is the one instance where I will say not all men.
Okay, do they all also extensively document on the internet, detailing when and where they took a shit? What his BM felt like? Going to really gross details describing the poop? I've never heard of this, so I don't buy it. I'm just at a loss to how to get through to him how incredibly disgusting this is. I don't even want to touch him now. We have had sex when he was basically playing with his shit earlier the same day. Please don't just tell me to divorce him over one thing, because our relationship is usually really good. He's a great father, and I know he loves our family. He's a very hard worker. I wasn't ever supposed to know about this. Now I can't unsee it. So that's just my problem to get over somehow.
Story time about how I stole a famous celebrity's boyfriend. Growing up, I loved the fashion industry and loved clothes. I knew I wanted to make that my job in the future. And just to let you guys know, I'm not the prettiest girl. I'm not anything special in terms of looks, but I'm pretty funny and I have a really great personality. When I was 16, I moved to New York to become a fashion stylist, and I quickly started gaining traction. I became an intern at a really big fashion house, and this helped me a lot. As you can imagine, I started meeting a lot of celebrities and just really important people doing this. Although I never really got to style anybody, I was still in the room when they were there for fittings and different things. After a few years, I quit that internship and went into another company. This new company, I was getting paid more and I was just happier in general, and I was able to style a bunch of people on my own. I wasn't styling any celebrities or anything like that, but just basically people that worked in the industry and people that had different events to attend. But one day this celebrity comes in, and no, he's not an A-list or anything, but he's pretty famous. He came in with his girlfriend, who at the time was also famous. I basically had to style both of them for an event, and it was really fun. But here's the thing. Clearly, he thought I was really funny, and we were making jokes back and forth. The fitting took longer than usual because we had some pieces coming in, so we had to wait for them to come in for them to try it on. But she was clearly annoyed. Obviously, waiting around for clothes is not the most fun thing, but at the same time, we were giving them champagne, we ordered them amazing food, and she was literally getting her tushy kissed. I could tell that he was really embarrassed by her behavior. At one point, he even told her just to sit down and relax, which she did eventually. I left them alone for a few minutes before the clothes arrived. Once they arrived, I came in and I gave him the pieces. She literally ripped the dress out of my hand and went into the changing room. He looked at me and apologized and said, you know, she's just in a bad mood today. And I said, I totally understand. This was my job, so I knew I couldn't react any other way, but I wanted to slap her across the face. While she was changing, he started making small talk with me. I made a few jokes and it actually made him laugh, which I was really surprised. And then he even complimented me about what I was wearing. I mean, I did look really good. Once she came out of the dressing room, she started complaining right away about the fit. It didn't surprise me whatsoever, but at the same time, I just really couldn't believe how she was acting. Then I realized that she was probably jealous because he was talking to me. He was like going out of his way to talk to me. They finally left and he said bye. But 2 days later, he comes back by himself. He wanted me to style him for an event coming up that weekend. And that's when I realized I needed to take advantage of the situation. I had the feeling he liked me, but I wasn't going to come out and say it. So I turned up the charm 1000%. We talked for about 2 hours. We even talked about each other's families and what our favorite foods were. So that's when I asked him if he wanted to have a quick dinner. Trust me, I was so nervous to ask him, but I knew I had to do it. And he said yes. We finally got to the restaurant and sat all the way in the back. I kind of got the feeling that he didn't want anyone to see us, but it made sense. That's when I asked about his famous girlfriend. Then he quickly apologized for her behavior and told me that she's never really like that. And I told him that I'm used to being treated that way by celebrities. And he said that I didn't deserve that kind of behavior from her. That's when I asked him if he was happy with her. I could tell the question caught him off guard because he didn't really know how to respond. And that's when he told me that he was happy with her, but he didn't know if the relationship would actually go anywhere. We proceeded to have a few drinks, and I could tell this was really loosening us up. Out of nowhere, I grabbed his hand and kind of massaged it, but he didn't pull it away. That just confirmed the fact that he liked me. Then he asked me for my phone number. We said goodnight and went our separate ways. But for the next week, he texted me every single day saying good morning. Of course, we would text pretty much all day long. I finally decided to tell him how I felt, which he obviously already knew, and he told me that he felt the same. Then he was the one that asked me out, and we actually went to the beach. We were at the beach for about 6 hours and we had such a great time. At the end of the beach day, I kissed him and asked him if he really wanted to be with his girlfriend. He stayed quiet and didn't answer, but the following day he messaged me and told me that he broke up with her. Here's the bad news. We only dated for 3 weeks. On the 3rd week, he actually broke up with me and told me he was dating someone else. I saw it coming. He's now dating another celebrity. Their relationship isn't public yet, but I have a feeling they're gonna announce it soon. I keep texting him and asking him to take me back. I was actually falling in love with him. What should I do, you guys?
I adopted my dog Tank when I was 20. He had minor issues like leash walking and prey drive, issues that I fixed. This dog is a saint, never bit anyone or shown any aggression. He's very well trained and now he's 5 years old and 60 pounds. My boyfriend and I live in an apartment with my dog. We moved in together last year, but we've been dating for 4 years. In December, my boyfriend's mom invited herself to come visit us in the summer. Now when she decided this, we were under the impression that she would stay at a hotel or something. We live in a small, really small 2-bedroom apartment, but we use the second room as a shared office space. But whatever, we'll deal. We can throw in a bed and move the room around. However, 3 weeks ago, she was talking to my boyfriend saying she would be staying for 2 weeks because she wanted to sightsee and because she really wanted to be with us. I could tell he was happy about this because he misses her and doesn't get to see her a lot because we live so far away from her. I wasn't going to argue with it because I know it makes him happy. However, then she called again last week. She told my boyfriend that she wouldn't feel comfortable if Tank was in the apartment with her because he's big and you can't trust dogs like that. She said she didn't feel comfortable with his size or breed. Also that he could be unpredictable because I got him a yearish old and don't know about his past. She asked my boyfriend if he would have my dog boarded the whole time while she was there. He brought it up 3 days ago and I immediately said no. He asked me if I would think about it and I said no again. Now he's angry with me. I'm fine with everything else, but I draw the line at leaving Tank in a boarding facility for 2 weeks straight. I've never done something like that with him. I don't want to risk anything. I even looked into it just at the pricing and it's too expensive. This is his home and he deserves to stay here. I've never had a problem with her before, but this is ridiculous. She's never met Tank in person before and she gets a lot of pictures and videos of him. When we video chat her, sometimes he joins in. She's never said anything about her concerns before. He isn't a bad dog, but she doesn't want him at the apartment at all while she's there. After about a week of silence, waiting for each other to bring this up, I bypassed my boyfriend and went to his mom. I reached out and talked about her feelings for Tank. It started out pleasant. Then I told her BF said that she wanted my dog boarded. I asked why she didn't feel comfortable with Tank. Her direct quote was, "You don't know what his past is. He's big and unpredictable and I don't want to be staying with that. It would be different if you knew, but you don't. I just don't feel comfortable sharing a space with a dog that may attack me for going to pee in the middle of the night or grabbing a cup of water." I was angry and didn't want to scream to make her upset, so I said very politely, "If you don't feel comfortable living with Tank for 2 weeks, even though your own son has been since August, you can stay in a hotel while you visit." And I hung up on her. My boyfriend got home a few hours later and was angry because I talked to her, made her upset, and then hung up on her. Now she thinks I hate her. He said I wasn't being fair to her. I asked why he wanted me to board Tank so badly. He knows he wouldn't attack her or do anything aggressive towards her. All he had to say was boiled down to, can't you just do it to make this whole thing easier? He's a dog. We argued at some point in circles. How Tank is a dog, he doesn't get rights in the apartment, and things got worse when I asked what would happen in the future if we were still together and she decided to visit when we were living in a house. He said that it would be different because we could put him in a room or something. So my dog has to be penalized for living in our home with us when your mom visits? When I adopted Tank, I took responsibility of taking care of him, making him my first priority, and treating him with respect as he is a living creature. I see him as I would a child. I do the same things for him as someone does for a child. He is family, 4 paws or not. I made a clear choice that night. While his mother may still be visiting whenever it is safe to do so, it won't be in this apartment. We came to a truth. This and other things we talked about are big and can't be ignored. We realized we don't want the same things, and it's not something you can compromise on. So, this all started with what I thought would eventually be my future mother-in-law wanting me to board my dog, and ended up with me and my boyfriend mutually breaking up after 4 years of dating.